What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another video from Blade Show 2022. Today we have Mr. Dave Wattenberg of ProTech Knives.
Hey, everybody.
Dave, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
Thank you for taking the time. You guys were very busy when I went over there.
What an amazing show.
Yes.
Honestly, I think everyone's so happy to be back.
Yes, I agree.
Things are open and people are out, and we had customers today from all over the globe, from just up the street here in Georgia to as far away as Austria, Taiwan, Moscow. I mean, it was so great to see everybody.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is really, really cool. You guys had a big group of dedicated customers around the booth.
Yes.
People just wanted to take pictures with all these investor collector items, and then, you guys are pretty well sold out, aren't you?
I think by the time I get back, we might be able to use our favorite end of the show phrase, "We have knife."
We have knife. Yes, I do love seeing. I love seeing empty cases at the end of Blade Show. I think that's amazing. Dave, what we're trying to do here is give people a view at the people behind the brands they love.
Sure.
You're obviously the creator, the founder of ProTech Knives.
Yes.
I would love to hear kind of the story of how you came into it, your background. How did this all come about?
You bet. So I grew up in a cutlery family. My dad and my uncle ran Ross Cutlery downtown LA for 53 years as partners. Incredible store, a lot of service there, a lot of sharpening, a lot of sales. So I've been selling knives since I could stand, I mean, honestly. And I remember going down to the store as a kid with my dad, and I'd work a weekend, and I had this old like crank thing to make price tags. And I was so small, I could barely do it. But I'd sit there and I'd crank those price tags out. And then at the end of the weekend or whatever, he'd say, all right, you can pick a little something as your pay. And
That's cool.
Like a compass or a little Swiss Army knife or whatever. And then as I got a little older, he would let me pick some other knives, and then I'd say, oh, what about those? And he's like, oh, no, Dave, those are switchblades. You can't have those, right? And so, of course, that's all I wanted.
Exactly.
Right? It's all I wanted. And so years later, I went to college, I graduated, I ended up moving to Colorado. And when I was in Colorado, I had a couple different jobs. The job I landed with was as a middle school teacher.
Yep.
So I taught ESL, English for Speakers of Other Languages, and it was a great experience. The kids were amazing. And as a side hustle, I started selling knives at gun shows, knife shows, things like that. And this is like the mid-90s or so.
Sure.
And at the time, there were only a handful of automatic knives available. And I noticed at the shows, it was the first thing I already sold out of, every time. When customers would come and they'd buy, what was available, and they wanted more, and I thought, there's a thing there.
There might be a niche.
Yeah, and so I knew some people that made blades and made fixed blade knives, and they had a blade grinder, an old pneumatic one, actually.
Okay.
And then through a friend of a friend, I met some people that own a machine shop, and they said they could make the handles, so by this time, I had moved back to California.
Okay, it started in Colorado?
Well, the ordering of the parts probably did.
Okay.
But assembly, the first batch was built in California.
Okay.
Yeah, as I moved back. So the first batch, everything was outsourced, handles from one place, blades from another, clips from another, buttons from another, everything.
Everything.
And I put them together at home on my kitchen table, drove them down to Ross Cutlery. My dad sharpened them, and that's how it started.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So back then, that model was the Runt.
The Runt, yeah.
Okay.
The original Runt. Yep.
And that was one of your own designs?
Yes. Yeah, it was really, there wasn't much for autos back in the day, and that California legal niche, obviously having moved back to California, was on my mind. And so, the little sub 2-inch knife was the first thing, and then I introduced the TR1 and TR2 pretty quickly after.
Okay.
The Tonto and the Spear Point.
So back then, who were your biggest inspirations in the knife world?
Oh, geez. Honestly, because I'd been selling knives as a side hustle.
Yes.
Right? So I was selling a lot of good brands. Benchmade, Spyderco, Broker, Cold Steel.
Okay.
At one point, I was doing so much of that, I had a minivan full of knives.
That's awesome.
I'd roll up to a gun show and set up all that. And for the first few years of ProTech, maybe the first 2 or 3, I was still doing some of that old business called the finer points.
I love that.
Finer points. And so
I always bring that up.
Yeah. And so the custom knives that I was selling a lot of whiskers.
Okay.
I was selling a lot of good stuff from Alan Elishewitz and Pat Crawford and a lot of those tactical guys from those days. And it's really cool, all these years later, a bunch of those people have become collaboration partners.
Yes.
And so it's neat. I feel like I had a bit of a head start from my Finer Points days, both in terms of being out with the public and knowing what they wanted.
Yes.
And also knowing the knife makers like I did. And so as soon as the brand started to build, I was able to use all that I learned. It was great.
Oh yeah, and you had a whole lot of sales experience at that point, which is also massive.
Watching my dad sell knives was magic.
He could sell someone salt water in a life raft?
Absolutely. Ice to Eskimos, all of it.
Ice to Eskimos, I love that.
Yeah.
So I did want to talk about that because you do see a distinct difference in someone who's had retail experience. A lot of owners are very adept at running the company.
Sure. Or maybe they started as a machinist.
Sure, exactly. Or an artist or something, this, that, and the other. But having that background, I see you at shows and all your people, but but you specifically, and you're managing 3 people at once, and we do like this. What people do in knife stores, and you just it's just really cool to see.
I think too, when I'm getting inventory ready to sell to dealers, I imagine myself being at a show or standing behind the counter at my dad's store, having that selection to sell. And so as we push models and variations and new textures and new inlays and all these things, it's on my mind, if I were the one selling this spread of knives, what would I want?
Okay.
And so the time with my dad and that retail experience, I know it weighs a lot on me, and it helps me, I think, put together like the selection we had here at the show. As an example, we had knives from $135 to $14,000. Right?
Yeah.
We have aluminum handles, stainless handles, titanium handles, bronze handles.
Yes.
We have Staten blades, stonewash blades, Damascus blades. I mean, what
everything
a spread.
in between.
And we're a pretty small company. It's myself and about 30 employees.
Okay.
And so for a small company to have that selection and that range at one show, I think a lot of that comes from my retail background, wanting to have a spread for people to see.
Absolutely agree. And that you can definitely feel that as a retailer, because you get people who are brand new to the community and they just want a quality auto, and maybe the most expensive knife they spent their money on is a $40 whatever.
Sure.
And that jump to a $130 Sprint is a little bit easier than to jump up into something that's up around $1,000.
Of course.
So it's cool to be able to offer that, but then maybe the Sprint turns into a Terzola, turns into a TR3
That's the dream, right?
Absolutely.
And with our product line, you can grow your taste, grow your collection, and stick with ProTech. It's really a unique thing.
It really is. So can we just walk through some of the new things that we brought here to Blade 2022? This guy is my personal knife, but I know you'll probably know a bit more about it than I do.
So back in the Finer Points days, the knife I carried was a Spyderco Bob Terzola.
Fantastic.
Yep. And so at the time, Spyderco made 2 sizes. There was a stubby one and kind of an oddly long one. The stubby one, I love that knife. And I think it was really, in that time frame, it was the knife that I bonded with the most.
Okay.
Like it was part of my personal effects. Like it was with me all the time.
Bury you with that knife kind of deal. Yes.
And anyway, all these years later, as we're building our own knives and doing our own things, we're at a show and Bob Terzola comes over and asks if I'd be interested in making an auto version of one of his knives. And I'll tell you what, I feel like I've had some moments in the knife business, but that one is pretty hard to beat.
Yes. How quickly can you say yes to something?
Yes. And so he's a truly precious person in the knife community, right? A lot of times he's referred to as the godfather of the tactical knives, because he was the first guy to do so many things in that tactical domain. He and a couple of other people were the ones who realized before everybody else that yes, people will buy black knives, right? Because if you think back to before the more modern era, everything was nickel silver, brass, with rosewood or jig bone or that kind of thing. And so a handful of people, especially Bob, they knew where it was headed, and they started doing it before everyone else. They really did.
Incredible foresight there.
Yeah,
a true innovator.
And the fact that we can sell out of ATCFs today in 2022, multiple decades of even people, obviously people who know Terzola are going to come and they're going to buy it, of course.
Sure.
But so many people come up to the table and they get it in their hand and it feels right. Even if they don't know Terzola, even if they don't know the story, the design is perennial, it's classic.
Exactly.
And we're ridiculously honored to build it in our auto.
I love seeing on his social media just how proud of this knife he is. He's posting it like it's his own because it is, you know, and he had I would assume he had his hand in the development the whole time, which is so cool.
Oh, it's great. And this type of teamwork where, we can take a classic design like that, inflict our auto mechanism on it, and make it new again.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's fantastic. So, this particular model, you've got an aircraft aluminum frame, a pearl push button. I'm telling you, you already own it.
I'm like,
he's already sold. So
I'll take it.
A textured black G10. And then one thing that Bob insisted on is this titanium 3D machined pocket clip. So this is a Terzola custom level pocket clip. This is what you get. This type of machining, this type of fit and finish on a true custom knife. Very, very unusual for it to be on a production knife. On top of all that wonderfulness, it's a MagnaCut blade. So this is, believe it or not, a base model.
Yes.
ATCF.
Yes.
So in the direction of taking that classic design and paying tribute to it, honoring it, we decided even the base model is going to be all out. Right?
That's really cool.
So that's how we're doing it.
Yeah.
And also because of everything that goes in, the inlays, the buttons, the crazy clip, the production's going to be pretty limited. They'll come in fairly small batches.
Sure.
So the very first group of aluminum ones that came out were tuxedos.
Loved those.
Then we've got these textured G10. Probably July or August we'll have tuxedos with black blades.
Nice.
I've got some maple burl on order. And then we'll go back to carbon fiber, right? And so every time you see a group of Terzolas come out, it's going to be a little different than the time before.
And special.
Yeah, and then eventually we'll rotate back. Like if you miss the tuxedo stonewash blade sometime next year, we'll have another group. Yeah.
And they'll all have some sort of treatment.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of the introduction of MagnaCut here.
Yes.
I think that was an amazing choice.
Yep. We actually delayed releasing the knife until that first pallet of MagnaCuts showed up.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So this had been developed and it was ready to go essentially.
It was ready. We were just about to roll production and the MagnaCut was like, I don't know, a month or two out.
Okay.
And we decided to hold back and wait.
I think it was a good choice.
I think so too.
It was a really, really good choice.
Yep.
So this isn't your run-of-the-mill TR3, is it?
No. So we, I guess our reputation in the knife business and our company's history and story and all the rest of it has, people know, especially collaboration partners and different suppliers for Damascus and different materials. We really do try, we just do it. We take good care of everybody that we work with, and I think people know it, they've heard it. And so this gentleman, Greg Dion, actually reached out to us and said, hey, I make this steel, it's a little different, it's got copper, it's a kumai is what he likes to call it. So you got this beautiful Damascus with the copper in it, and then a core center layer of 154, so it still cuts well.
That's amazing.
And he actually did something very unique, and I think it was brilliant. He sent us a little group of steel on spec.
Okay.
And he basically said, hey, if you guys can make knives out of it, if it works through your processes, then pay me for it.
That's cool.
But if not, no harm, no foul. We both tried, and I thought, you know what?
That's a go-getter attitude.
It is.
I like that.
With some skin in the game.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so I'm really proud that it worked, and we made just a handful of special prototype pieces. So it pairs nicely with this mosaic pin push button, bronze anodized titanium clip. I'm sure you'll see some more stuff from him.
Oh yeah. That looks amazing, and I really do like that bronze clip. It's a small touch.
Yep.
But when I first noticed it was the most recent batch of bronze Godsons.
Oh yeah.
I thought I was taking pictures of them, and I flipped it over. I said, "Wait a second, what's going on here?" Like that, it looks really, really good.
Thank you.
And I think it's going to be cool as the bronze patina slowly, because the clip will stay.
So good. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. That looks really, really good. Speaking of bronze, we have a
this
bronze
has got
Malibu.
a few different things that are super cool, all rolled into one. It's a Malibu, of course, which has been our big hit, button lock flipper. This is a solid bronze aluminum frame with a machine texture. One thing we do that I like is we put this little landing pad on the bottom so that underneath the pocket clip, it's smooth so it doesn't tear your pocket up. This texture is so just right. It's got a nice little grip to it, but if you were working with the knife, holding it all day, it wouldn't tear you up. It's really a good one. A pearl push button. This one also has a Chad Nichols stainless Damascus blade. Anyway, yeah, we did bring a nice little spread of Malibus to the show. A handful of these bronze Damascus ones, but a nice offering.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What about this Sprint here?
Oh, Sprints have been, we try to get back to the models as soon as we can, but we haven't gotten to Sprints in, I don't know, a year and a half or so.
We were excited to see the Sprints and the half-breeds come back around. And people ask for the half-breeds all the time. I love that knife.
Yeah, it's really great. I love how it sells outside of California.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like it's the 2-inch thing. I think a lot of people have just found that for EDC, a Runt, a Sprint, these little pocket knives, especially with the premium materials and the USA build like we do, like if you're opening boxes and Amazon packages and doing your daily stuff, it's a great knife to have. So this one's a little dressed up in a Sprint.
A little bit.
It's a titanium frame and a super nice two-tone anodized. So you got a bronze and then blue, bronze on the edges, and then my favorite part, and maybe later you guys can get a picture of it, is this little blue edge.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
Yeah, it's wild.
That is really impressive.
And it also has a 3D machine, titanium pocket clip, a pearl button, and a stainless Vegas forged Damascus blade.
Oh, I love the Vegas forged stuff.
This is a spirograph.
That's fantastic.
Particularly fond of that one.
That and their gingham is so good.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
And they're good dudes, too.
Are they?
Yeah.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. What about this sapphire here?
Oh, so one of our coating companies is actually fairly local to us. And he came to me and he was like, oh, Dave, I've got this coating. I want you to see it. And he opens up this sample kit and this blue pops out. I'm like, oh, Brian, I got to have it. He goes, well, here's the thing. I can't do it for you for probably, well, maybe next year. And I was like,
why would you show me that?
Why are you doing this to me, right? And so I'm like, why? And he explains, and I don't know the technical stuff, but something like in the coating chamber, if there's one speck of some other color and he tries to run the blue, it doesn't work, it won't stick.
Weird.
Something like that.
Very odd.
The only time that he can run it is after he's done this huge maintenance on the machine. A couple times a year, they got to tear the machine down, do a big maintenance, and right after that maintenance cycle, that's the moment where he can run the blue.
Interesting. A little bit of a little blue run after that, and then you got to take a break.
Right.
Interesting.
And so we don't know when we're going to be able to do it. We don't know what model it's going to be because he's going to call me whenever and say, hey, Dave, I'm tearing the machine down. We're going to be ready for Sapphire Blue next week. And then we're going to haul ass and satin finish whatever blades we have and get them down there to him.
So the next one could be a Rockeye. It could be a Godfather, whatever.
It just depends on when he calls.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And so it's not that we're trying to not fulfill orders or listen to the customers on that one.
Yeah.
We're going to get what we get.
That's cool.
So the Sapphire Blue, we always put an abalone push button with it. It just has to have it.
Pops.
This is the first time we've had any TR5s in the Sapphire Blue.
Yeah.
The other thing about this, it's good for customers to know every time it's run, the color's a little different.
Sure.
And so sometimes a little darker. This particular batch, it's almost a purplish
I was
color.
about to say.
Yep.
I was about to say. It looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
And one of your employees was mentioning to us that depending on what maybe cleaning solution you use on it, you can kind of change the hue a bit, which is really cool.
Super cool.
A little bit of customization there.
Yep.
That's really nice.
So TR5 Sapphire Blue, and then what's the next model in Sapphire Blue?
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Only God knows.
Yep. Indeed. And then big drop here at the Blade Show was our Malibu operator.
Yes.
And so combining a couple of our most popular things, right? The Malibu, first of all, and then the operator series. So all blacked out, no markings with the tritium push button. And obviously we sold out of these very quickly.
Are you? You don't say. A Malibu operator?
I know, right?
I would have thought that would sit around for a while.
Yes. Knives left over.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And so anyway, a lot of people had asked for this, and we finally snuck out a little group, and we will definitely make more. We've actually focused an incredible amount of our new machinery in the building on the Malibu production.
It makes sense.
And I'll tell the customers who've been waiting for the Malibus, we are really trying. We've last year alone, just last year, bought 5 new CNC machines,
Wow.
2 new grinders. We've gone from 20 to 30 employees pretty quickly.
Wow.
We are really trying to catch up and take care of people. So anyway, we are trying, I promise. Anyway, yeah, Malibu operators, and lots of more Malibus coming.
Fantastic.
We'll be shipping you guys soon some back orders on the textured with the black Tonto blade, 5206.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, lots of good stuff coming.
That's amazing. Yeah. That is amazing. Yeah, that kind of broke the internet for a while.
Yes.
It was all we heard about. Right after you guys posted that picture, we got a lot of message requests.
Yeah, and so 20 or so years of trying to make the best switchblades, and of course the knife everybody wants has no spring in it, right? It's like funny. But yeah, the button lock obviously is something we've had dialed in for a long time.
Yes.
And so it's kind of a natural thing.
It's natural.
There was a moment, honestly, where we thought about a frame lock, and then there was a lot of momentum towards the Axis type lock.
Yeah.
Because once Benchmade's thing ran out, a lot of people were making something similar.
Yeah, that's true.
And we looked at both of those, and I thought, you know what? That's not us, right? We do buttons. Let's do a button lock. And really, I think if we had gone into something that everyone else was doing, probably wouldn't have been nearly as successful.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so I'm very proud of that decision to do our own thing and kind of carve our own manual niche.
Yeah,
and I've seen a lot of other button locks
I was wondering if you noticed.
I'm like, wonder where they got that idea. Anyway, it is a great knife, and we appreciate all the support.
Yes.
We're going to try to get as many Malibus built for folks as we can, and anyway, yeah.
Also, you guys have the Mordax back, don't you? That is amazing news.
It's like the Malibu's big brother.
It is.
Yep, so the Ferrum Forge guys, their contract ran out or expired with their previous distribution channel.
Sure.
And so we're able to take that one home. Like all of our other knives, it'll be sold through River's Edge Cutlery and our other great dealers. So the first batch of those we should see August, September.
Wow.
Right in there.
That's pretty
and
amazing.
They will be Magna Cut.
Did you guys hear that?
Magna Cut, Mordax, Malibu's big brother. And so anyway, I apologize in advance. There won't be enough of them.
No,
but
no,
we will try. We will try.
No, there'd have to be 300 employees for there to be enough Mordaxes.
Yes.
That is really exciting news, though.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
To have control over that.
Yes.
Do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, that way we can mix up the colors, the textures. We can make some custom ones.
Sure.
We can do the ProTech full treatment.
Yeah, that's going to be really, really cool. Run the whole gambit. No, of course not. Why would you? How about this gorgeous Runt over here?
Yep, so the Runt 5, it's actually kind of a cool story. So one of my employees, Jeff, we've been tinkering around with a new Runt design and back and forth, and I kind of tasked him. I said, Jeff, sketch something up for me. I want you to take the original Runt, and I want you to pull some stuff from that, and then I want you to pull some stuff from the Calmigo, and I want you to pull some stuff from here and there, and I want you to throw it all together, see what you come up with. And he sketched something up, and we tinkered and back and forth, modified it, made a prototype, modified it back and forth. And anyway, we did settle on the Runt 5 as now it's been released. And the heritage of the Runt, of course, is the first knife of the company.
Yeah.
I have a lot of attention on Runts in general because of that history, and so I'm thrilled with the way the Runt 5 come out. It's a great knife. It does combine a lot of the new stuff like the deep carry pocket clip.
Yes.
The standard models are 20 CV.
Yes.
And so a lot of the new stuff, but it has a lot of the old original Runt feel as far as the beef and the bigger button and all that. So this is a ultimate custom Runt 5 bronze frame, fully engraved by Bruce Shaw.
It's gorgeous.
Mosaic pin push button, and then a Chad Nichols stainless Damascus blade. So at the table today at the show, Runts we had from 135 with an aluminum frame and 20 CV all the way up to this couple $1,000 custom piece, everywhere in between. So yeah, Runt 5s for people who've been buying Runts for a long time. I think they'll enjoy how this captures a lot of the history of the knife. And then for a lot of people who if this is their starting point, it's a hell of a place to start.
It is, and it looks very modern. I will say I like the Warncliffe reverse Tonto choice.
Yep.
I think those are two, especially for smaller blades.
Oh, absolutely.
Great blade shapes to get the most out of it.
On a 2-inch blade, you get so much blade to handle because of those two shapes.
There is a lot of usable edge there, and it just looks amazing.
I'll say this too, as far as our partners, and like, it's so neat that a lot of these people have been with us so long. Bruce Shaw, the engraver on this piece, he was the first person to ever engrave a ProTech.
That's really cool.
Right? And I remember back in those days thinking, wow, like, I don't know if we'll ever be able to sell a knife that price, right? And and then as things have evolved and the prices have increased and we've gotten more elaborate with the custom work, the one thing about Bruce, he's a artist and he's also understands business.
Sure.
And so it's such a unique combination. He knows my schedule, he knows when the shows are, and he's such a good guy about, like, he knows I'm gonna call, 6 weeks before Atlanta and be like, Bruce, can you? Whatever. He knows already.
He's already thought of what I'm going to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he'll answer the phone. He's like, yeah, I've blocked out the calendar.
Oh, that's cool.
It's amazing.
That's really cool.
Yeah, anyway, yeah, it's just great stuff. So I treasure the relationships. I really do. Like,
yes.
One time I was given a factory tour of ProTech, and we'd walked through the whole building, and I'd given the whole talk, and I showed them everything, and we went through engineering, and we went through inspection, and we went through what it takes to build one of these custom level knives. And the guy said, Dave, I get it. You're the conductor of the symphony. And I thought about it. I thought, you know what? It's kind of true, right? Like, all these different people, you have to get the best guy for all the different jobs.
Yes.
Or the best gal, obviously.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And you get them to do their best at what they're good at, and you fold it all together and you bring it all home, and that's how these knives get built.
That's an important thing to realize, I think.
It really is.
Yes.
And some of the projects, even a basic ProTech knife, steel now to get a shipment of MagnaCut is 28 to 32 weeks.
Wow.
Right? And I remember the last time I called him, like, can you just tell me that in months?
Yeah.
It's like, I have to do math now.
Do I have to pull out a calculator?
Yeah. And so just to get the steel, you're like half a year, right? And then to work it from sheets of steel to a blade that's ready for assembly is about 3 months and 15 separate processes, right? So the steel we order today isn't going to be a knife ready for assembly for almost a year.
Oh, that's incredible.
It's
so
amazing.
You're forecasting not only what you're going to produce in 2023, but also what's going to be hot. What steel
are people going to want?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
Yeah.
Seemingly.
It's crazy.
You guys do a good job, but it seems impossible.
Well, honestly, with the Crucible stuff, it's all, even 154, even their classics S35, they're all fantastic steels.
It's true.
And I am not going to be the steel or the knife company that ran out of steel. I'm not going to do it. And so I might be over-ordering these days.
Stockpiling?
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That keeps the well from going dry.
Oh, absolutely. We can't have it.
No, we cannot.
No.
Dave, so what do we have here on the very end?
So this is a special custom piece of the ultimate range, obviously. And so this is a Terzola ATCF. And even though the knife obviously is a tactical knife in its origination.
Yes.
Because we've been licensed by Bob Terzola to build it, we give it the full ProTech once over. And so everything from the tactical black, variation, all the way up to these investor collector grade pieces. So this one is a stainless steel frame. It's been hand satin finished. The inlays are cross-cut mastodon.
Whoa.
So if you imagine the tusk of a woolly mammoth and cutting it across so that you see the pattern in the rings, and it's a match set from front to back, so if you slid them together you'd see the rings.
That's incredible.
It's wild. It's just wild. And so this is also hand engraved by Wade Oliver Wilson of Texas. He's a new engraver for us, and in fact we got 2 knives from him, this one and one other.
Yes.
And the other one is out in the display case, and we have our fingers crossed that it may win the Investor Collector Knife of the Year.
I think you have a good shot at that.
It's a really tremendous piece.
It is breathtaking, I would say.
Thank you. And so it was really neat to meet him. I've been a fan of his work. We've been following him on Instagram for a while. We met him at the Blade Show in Texas. Really neat guy. And I told him, I said, I'd like to send you 2 knives. I'd like to have one that is your everyday engraving.
Okay.
And then I'd like to have one, show me everything you've got. No budget, no limits.
Yes.
Go for it.
Yep.
And so that's the knife that's out in the case, obviously. Yeah, so this one's really special. I love, and you guys can get some pictures of it, even the spine, he spent a lot of time on the bolsters, of course, and the pivot pin and the main pivot screw. And so with this level of knife, you've got the stainless steel, the hand engraving, mosaic pin push button, ancient crosscut ivory. You've got the Chad Nichols stainless Damascus, the 3D machine titanium pocket clip. There's so much that has to happen all at the same time in the world for something like this to exist. It's amazing. And one time I was talking to a customer and he said it, and as soon as he said it, I've recycled it a few times because it's so good. He said, this is a snapshot. It's a moment in time, right? The people involved, the company, the design, the materials, they're only available for a moment in time.
That is an incredible way to put that.
And if you think about that and you think about owning something like this, you know, obviously this type of knife is going to outlive any of us here, right? It's going to be passed down. Some of these things, you know, a museum someday,
I was going to say heirloom or museum quality.
And looking back at it, people will say, wow, those people that could forge that Damascus, that could do that engraving. Remember when you can actually buy crosscut Mastodon, right? Because there's certainly a limited supply.
Sure, yeah.
And so for the people who are interested in a knife in this range, built at this level, I'm very, very proud and confident of the combinations that we put together.
Sure.
That they are indeed a very special moment in time and a very special knife.
I agree. Yeah, that thing is incredible. I do love that you referred to it as just your everyday engraving.
I know. I know.
I almost laughed, but I tried to hold it in.
I know, right?
It is totally extraordinary.
Thank you.
I'm very, very impressed. Not that the investor collector editions from ProTech ever disappoint.
Right.
But
there are moments, I'll be honest, where when we have those type of knives, and I think back to the kitchen table knife building and hoping that we could sell, or I could sell. I always say we, because now it's we, right?
Yes, sure.
And sometimes my guys will correct me, and they'll be like, Dave, back then it was just you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I hoped that people would buy the knives, that they would enjoy them, that we could hopefully do it again. And anyway, all these years later, the relationships we've built, the knives that we're able to make, so much to be thankful for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dave, this is an incredible lineup for this year.
Thank you.
I know you guys try really hard to have an amazing variety at shows, and it looks like, I mean, you guys hit the nail on the head this time. From the tactical to the totally extraordinary, everything's been hit. We're all impressed.
Awesome.
Obviously, everyone here is also, because no one's over here. They're all at your booth, so they're all like, "Where's Dave?" So, Dave, we'll let you get back to your people. But thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much.
Do you have anything else you want to tell the good people out there?
I really appreciate all the support and love from all the customers. I feel just amazingly honored, and every time you choose a ProTech, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you helping to build the brand and take care of me and my family, all my employees, all my people. Thank you very much for the support. Thanks.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today. We'll talk to you on the next video.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.